people here already. That is so exciting. I like when we have a bunch of people on here. We always get really good questions and we have great conversation. So I am super, super, super excited that you all are here. So if you haven't already, share in the chat where you're from. I always enjoy seeing that. We come from all over the US. So it's super fun for me to see where everyone is. I've seen we've got some Oklahoma. Welcome. Idaho, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, North Carolina. We've got all over and I just love it. So right now it's 7 o'clock. So it is our wham bam. Well, it's 7 where I am. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it's 7 where I am. So we're going to go ahead and get this started because we have a full evening tonight. I'm super excited. Suzanne is here tonight and she's going to dive into the realm of nature's pharmacy. And who better to do that? Because she is a bioregional herbologist. I'm not even going to be able to say it right because herbologist sounds weird, but she'll correct me and that will be fine. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's the director of herbal education at the Cedar Mountain Herb School, which is so fun. If you haven't checked them out, make sure you check them out. And she has over 35 years of experience offering insight into the natural world with flora, fauna, beauty, nature, health, wellness. She's got a plethora of knowledge. So we are so glad that she is here tonight. If you all have not seen her before, you are in for an absolute treat, I promise you. So since I am starting a bit early, it's 7:01, but like I said, we have a packed night. So Cindy Ball, I know you're there because I made you a co-host. Do you want to come on and share about our purpose and our mission and why we're rocking and rolling this happy evening?
Look at you on it. I'm so excited. Yes, I would love to share with you. And I'm so excited that Suzanne is with us tonight. I think all these 134 women on right now, you all are going to love hearing what Suzanne has to say. But the reason that we are here this evening, the National Ladies Homestead Gathering exists to empower women through homesteading. And of course, we define homesteading as doing it home instead of going to the store. So if you're growing herbs on your windowsill or you have an acre of growing your own food, we're all homesteaders because we all have an attitude, right, of self-sufficiency. All right. And the way that we empower women here at the National Ladies Homestead Gathering is we share knowledge, just like we're doing tonight. We build community and we grow friendships. And so if you're not plugged into a local chapter, if there's one in your area, I highly recommend that you do that. Otherwise, we love seeing you here month to month on our national virtual gathering. So there you go, Julie, take it away. You're muted. Julie, you're muted.
I was saying really good words too. As Cindy said, we are so lucky to have you all here tonight. And if you don't have a local chapter, join us here the first Wednesday of every month, or join us on our online community, which is community.nlhg.org. And my magician behind the scenes, Miranda, will drop that link for you guys. That is our private online community. And it's just like this, except you can experience it every day. And there's tons of different women in there that can give you insight and advice and support. So make sure you check that out. Part of the reason that we are here tonight is because we have an awesome nonprofit, National Ladies Homestead Gathering. It is phenomenal. We have great fun. We have lots of things going on, but part of being a nonprofit is you have to have a board of directors and you have to have different positions on there and you have to have executive staff and you have to do lots of things that I had no idea about until I joined this amazing organization. Part of that amazing staff is the wonderful Jenny Morris. She is on our board of directors. There's that pretty face, and she is here tonight to rock your world because I know she's going to rock your world, aren't you, Jenny?
Probably not. I'm a little bit under the weather tonight, so I'll keep this short because I know y'all have an exciting presentation, but I am here to recruit for national positions. If you go to the website and click under Get Involved and then click on Volunteer, there's a list of positions that we have for the board of directors and for the executive board. And not all of those positions are open right now, but we're taking applications on all of them. Because there may be people who want to move to another position if they could find somebody to take their position, et cetera, et cetera. The board of directors positions are me, the president, treasurer, secretary, and then some area positions, or you can join as a board member at large. The executive team, you have to be on the executive team, you have to have been a VIP member for 1 year. So you understand the workings of the organization. And if you have a local leadership position, you will have to give that up. And we will work with you to give you time to be able to find someone to take that over for you. Our most pressing needs right now are for a community director, and then a financial director, an events director, operations director, marketing director, fundraising director, tech director, and education director. As I said, we're taking applications for every position, and on the website, you'll see a little link that you can click on, and that will give you an online application. And that comes to me. If you want more information before you make the application, that's fine. Email me at jenny.morris@nlhg.org. My email's new, so, but we really like to get people from all over the country involved in this. And all of our meetings are remote, and we have a lot of fun. I will talk to y'all later when you decide to apply for a position. Thank you.
That's right. Hope you feel better, Jenny. I know there's lots of bugs going around, so feel better. And yes, come join us, guys. We have so much fun, and there's so many positions. So even if you think, I don't have the skills, I don't have the knowledge, I had no idea how to do this job 2 years ago, and yet here I am, and I love it. And I've learned a lot of things that apply elsewhere. So it can really help you overall. So make sure you fill out those volunteer positions. We need you. We want you. We are happy to have you. Now, let's celebrate our community achievements with Atta Girls. June, our dedicated, magnificent, wonderful, and gorgeous membership director, is going to spotlight some of the remarkable accomplishments that our members have worked on this past month. For me, it's so much fun to witness the amazing feats that you all achieve. It gives me inspiration. It gives me ideas. It makes me feel better, because an Atta Girl doesn't have to be something you accomplished. It may be something you tried and didn't necessarily succeed at, but you learned something. So I'm not going to call that a failure. So June is here to share these inspiring stories with us. June, look at that pretty face of yours and that amazing hair. One day, my hair is going to look that good. One day.
Julie, thank you. Ladies, it's so exciting to see all of you here tonight. This is one of my favorite parts of our national virtual gatherings, is to celebrate the Atta Girl moments you all had in this last month. In our online community, I do a post and I ask, let's share your Atta Girl moments. Nothing is too small to share. So I'm going to read a few of those, but if you're not part of our community, make sure you join that. And that way you can participate in this as well as so much fun conversation. Connie finished her first wool dryer ball, Atta Girl. Trina sold her first order of plant starts for a friend's garden, Atta Girl Trina. Maria, she posted an amazing picture of all 300 of her fall planted garlic coming up fantastic. And she completely sold out of homemade Worcestershire sauce. I wonder how you all say that word, at the gathering. So that's an awesome accomplishment as well. Atta Girl, Maria. Cindy built 2 storage closets in her new addition to store plastic bins. There's going to be a window seat between them, some storage. Nice to get rid of a lot of boxes, she said. So Atta Girl, Cindy. Debbie did some reorganizing and restocking her long-term pantry, and she's halfway through knitting a pair of socks. Atta girl. Dottie taught her 9-year-old grandson how to use a cordless drill to set hooks for her pots and pans. He loved it and felt so accomplished. And that looks so cool, Dottie. She shared a picture there as well. Felicity shared some gratitude that she got over 100 daffodil bulbs from a friend. The list just goes on and on. Kristen made a kudzu basket. You guys have to check it out. So thanks so much, Julie.
Yes, thank you, June. Like I said, I don't even know what kind of basket that is. So I think that is so fun. And we're eager to connect with all of you here. There's over 180 of you here. So if you're not in that online community, I know Miranda will drop it in the chat. Make sure you check it out. It really is a treasure trove of knowledge, support, friendships. I mean, you can find people from across the country. So make sure you check it out, discover more, enjoy more, learn more, all of the fun things. And we can do that together as a group. Now, without further ado, because like I said, she's got a lot to share with us tonight, I want to introduce Suzanne Tabert. She is our esteemed guest for tonight. She's got expansive experience with herbal education, and I love her connection to nature. I think it's so genuine. You can really feel it. You really understand it. So Suzanne's insight, I really think, is going to make a huge impact in what you're doing in your gardens now, your gardens in the future, and really enjoy just the rhythm of nature. So Suzanne, let me see that beautiful face. I know she's here. Where did I put her? Suzanne. Oh, I need my participants. And then I'm going to ask her to unmute. And I'm going to ask her to start the video. There she is.
Hey, everybody. How amazing. 189 women all together. What a tribe we are to support each other, to learn about all kinds of things. I especially am interested in that kudzu basket because I know kudzu is, a plant that not everybody likes to have in their garden. So making a basket out of it sure is a good way to, go ahead and utilize it in such a good way. So I am not good at technology. So you're going to have to give me a little bit of grace. I'm going to start the recording, then share my screen. Welcome to my apothecary, by the way. What do you think? I've got dried herbs, I've got tinctures, all my supplies. I have a couple of gallons of a Chinese herb formula that I am making, and it's one that helps to calm you and just kind of cool down the liver. So it's exciting stuff. So I am going to start the recording. Again, be patient with me. Then I'm going to share the screen. Thank you all for your beautiful comments, by the way. And then we're going to get going. Oh, let's see. Oh, okay. So I guess it's already recording. So I'm going to need to get that recording. So let's do this. Here we go. It's your herb garden. And let's talk about how to choose your garden style and the plants within it. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm always an overachiever, or maybe say it like this. I've got so much to share, it's hard to narrow down. So I have 55 frames of really awesome information that I want to share with you all. And so the first part, I'm going to go a little fast, but definitely put your questions in the chat. And then the second part is going to be about the plants. So gardening, it's not just about producing calories. It's about producing meaning. It's about producing flavor and really reflecting the place where the food and the medicine is from. Visiting a garden can be an emotional and sensual experience if we allow the senses to open and be overwhelmed by the charm and beauty. Now just close your eyes for just a couple of minutes and let these pictures wash over you. The whisper of the wind through the leaves, bees buzzing, butterflies fluttering, birds singing, the sun on the flowers, warming them to release their essential oils to the pollinators, the feel of healthy soil, herbs brushing against our calves as we walk past. Oh, goodness, all of this and more allows us to be part of the garden and really part of a community. And we're no less a part of the garden than anything else within its borders. So that means we are part of this community of just such a beautiful ecosystem. So part one, we're going to explore what makes a garden, whether it be a plot of land, a container garden, raised bed, hugelkultur. What is that? I'll tell you. All mysteries will be revealed. Straw bale garden, or even an indoor herb garden. The possibilities really are endless and can be adapted to your lifestyle, your needs, and space available. Amending the soil, we'll talk about to create a fertile place for your plants to live long and prosper. And part two, medicinal and culinary herbs in the garden. What grows well together? What are their space, water, and nutrient requirements? And then what are our needs medicinally or for food, for putting up for the future? And then we'll talk about creating food corridors for pollinators, which is so important for a healthy garden ecosystem. So what you want to do is assess your space availability and then plant accordingly. And we see here so many different types of gardens. We have a container garden on the top left, which has medicinal herbs. It has tomatoes, it has onions, chives, and oh gosh, all kinds of things, spearmint. We have plants in little pots on your kitchen table. We might have herbs in a big, vast garden. Now, my garden is about a 5,000 square foot garden, and I shared this 5,000 square feet with my husband, and he had the veggies and I had the herbs. And he called my side the hippie garden because everything was all over. And he said it looked like a hippie. Well, I said, you know who you married, so you married a hippie. So of course my garden is going to look like a hippie garden. And he's from Germany. So every row, not a single weed. It was so different. So last fall, he decided we're going to split the garden. And so he has a 5,000 square foot garden that everything is going in the soil. And I have a 5,000 square foot raised bed garden. And I can tell you, I am so excited to put those plants in. It's still a little early here in Sandpoint, Idaho. Please send spring. If you're in an area where you have a lot of sun and warmth, just kind of send it my way, because us gals in North Idaho and other places in Idaho, we're still deep into winter. So here's a garden on the left on the bottom that was on a ladder. Look at how cool that was. And the little vine that you see, that's a grape, and that ended up really enveloping that whole ladder. And on each step I had herbs. And oh my gosh, I think that was one of my favorite gardens that I ever had. And here's my crack in the concrete garden. Isn't that amazing? So nutrient-rich soil will attract plants of all kinds. And what I really liked about seeing this viola coming out of the crack is because viola, another name for it is heart's ease. And what it does medicinally is helps to soothe a heart physically. It has a lot of mucilage. It has some polysaccharides in it that helps to heal heart tissue, but also being called heart's ease, it heals a broken heart as well. And so it's just, I think, so apropos to come out of a crack, a broken part of the concrete there. And it's just it wants to be there and it wants to heal. That's, I think, one of the real beauty parts of herbs. They show, and especially the wild one. Well, both the wild ones and the garden ones, they just show up wherever they want to go. And I truly, truly believe that they show up where they know that they're needed. Now, don't rush a garden. Patience is just so important because, if we put all of our plants really close together, then there's not spaces for them to grow. And so we space out our plants widely, and they will, I guarantee you, grow to fill the spaces. And I remember a gal, one of my best friends, Erin Van Hee, she is an herbalist in Concrete, Washington, so way up northwest. And I remember when we first became friends, and I was living on this 74-acre farm, and I said, I'm putting in a garden and it looks so sparse. And she said, take a picture of it now, take a picture of it in 3 months and see what happens. Take a picture of it the following year. And gosh, if she wasn't right, because that garden went from tiny little plants with lots of dirt in between to lots and lots of big, beautiful, lush plants without a lot of space in between. So we may want to see a full garden from the beginning, but take heart, friends, because the plants will stretch and they'll grow to fill the spaces. And in no time at all, you may be digging up starts for friends and family. That's one of my favorite things to do. I call my gardens giving gardens, and I'm always digging up starts for my apprentices and my students and my neighbors, anybody who stops by. And I'm right on a road. So, our house is right on the road. So in town in Sandpoint, Idaho, and people just we have 4 acres in town, and we have an orchard. We're putting in another orchard, and it's such an interesting place. People just walk onto our property and start talking to us. And everybody knows my husband because he's always in the garden. I am too, but he's in the garden at 6 in the morning, and I'm in the garden at 9 in the morning. So here we are, March to June 2019, and this is the start of my garden. This here, though, this is in Western Washington, so the elements, the weather is a little bit different, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit. So here we just started. On the left here, we see the plants are just going in, lots of spaces. And then the third picture over, you can see how it's really filled in. And then March, the very following year, so March to April. Now, of course, on the West Coast, plants grow bigger earlier again. So this is just reflecting Western Washington. And I saw a gal on here from Kent, Washington. Hey, former neighbor of mine. So you really can start planting just about now, some things. So, and now look at this. So, oh my goodness, the frame before April, that looks pretty full. It looks nice, right? But now look, May to July, poof, the garden just went wild, and it went from lots and lots of space to no space whatsoever. And while this type of overcrowding helps to keep weeds down, it can invite mildew. So that's something to keep on top of. So even container gardens will grow out of their homes. So, when we plant in our containers, we want to make sure we don't put in too much. And, you might want at the very beginning to put in lots of plants because that looks good, and that's fine. But as they get bigger, you might need to transplant some out to another container. So this is my container garden, September 2020, after several plant cuttings over the course of summer and fall. And that really grew in. Now, do you remember 2020? That was a year where everybody lost their minds, wasn't it? And it was such a good time to have a garden. Any time is good to have a garden because, when we're stepping on the soil, we're literally grounding ourselves, and we're letting all of that stuff that keeps us preoccupied and worried just come right out into the earth. And the earth really knows how to take care of that, filter, sift it through, and get it away from us. But this year was a particularly distraught year. So you, my loves, are the stewards of your garden, and the plants really do sense your presence. This has been scientifically proven. The shadow you cast as you pluck flowers and leaves, as you dig roots, the care you give the garden will be rewarded for many, many years to come. And watching a garden evolve is one of the many joys in life, isn't it? Oh gosh, planting your garden with the thought of how it will look 30 years from now. I've always wanted a 30-year garden. We'll see if that happens. I'm 63 now. So place your bets, ladies. You'll see my garden in 30 years. Well, you might see the garden, but you may not see me. So taking time to enjoy the garden, observing the plants, bees, and birds that thrive and take nourishment within its boundaries, harvesting the plants, making remedies, and delicious dishes are some of the many, many beauty parts of the garden. So let's talk about the garden itself. What is the garden made out of? What is the difference between soil and dirt? I remember years ago, I was talking with a group of apprentices, and I used the term dirt, and one of my apprentices lost her mind and informed me that dirt is lifeless. You can't grow anything in dirt, but soil is alive. And boy, her vehemence made me really change the way I look at the stuff that we put our plants into. So a single teaspoon of soil can contain billions of microscopic bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and nematodes. Those are all good things. A handful of the same soil will contain numerous earthworms, arthropods, and other visible crawling creatures. And healthy soil is a complex community of life and actually supports the most biodiverse ecosystem on the planet. And if you want to look into more the story of soil, I believe the PDF will be posted on Mighty Networks. So you'll be able to get that permaculture news article. It's really, really good. So soil is truly the foundation of nutrition. So the plants take up water from the soil, takes up nutrients from the soil, and the nutrients are in the form of all these macro minerals and micro minerals that go into from the roots up into the stems and the trunks and the leaves and the flowers and the berries and the seeds and everything. And that makes for us our beautiful medicine and food. So what good soil will help us do, and what we want is to increase the soil organic matter content, which I'll go into in just a bit. It helps to minimize the tillage. That's an important thing because as we're exposing things to the air, it can destroy some of this beautiful biomass. And there's so much information on no-till gardening, and we don't really have time to go into that, but look that up if you're at all interested. So good soil reduces erosion, and really sustainable management is so important for healthy soil and healthy food, which translates into healthy people. That's us, that's you and me. So plants need magnesium for photosynthesis. We need magnesium in our bodies for our immune health, nerve health, and muscle health. So magnesium helps to calm our nerves. It helps to keep, if we have muscles that cramp at night, or we have, what is that called? When your legs, restless leg syndrome, oftentimes the reason for that is because we're magnesium deficient. So something to think about. So a tomato grown with commercial fertilizers and bug repellents might look like a tomato, and it might be big and beautiful and red, but it can be very nutrient deficient. And it can contain some of the chemicals that are not good for us, that can cause endocrine AKA hormone disruption, immune and nervous system disruption as well. So how do we get nutrients in our herbs and veggies? Nutrient-rich soil, of course. And how do we get nutrient-rich soil? By amending the soil. Compost really, really matters. Amending the soil means introducing nutrients and materials to make soil more fertile, adding to soil permeability and water retention. And we don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. So if you have very sandy soil, then there's not a lot of nutrients in it and the water runs out quickly. And so you have to water more. Okay. And if you have very clay soil like I do in North Idaho, and many of us do, then we need to amend the soil to put in compost and broken down materials to add bulk and biomass so that we can actually hold on to water much better, and the plants can grow more easily as well. So if we rake up the leaves in autumn and pile them thickly around the perennials and the beds, that not only amends the soil as the minerals that the roots of the plant brought up to the leaves from the ground all summer are released as the leaves decompose right to the top of the soil, but it also helps to protect the plants from hard frosts. So that's free composting material and exercise at the same time, which win-win, yay, let's do that. Burlap bags help to keep weeds down and will compost over the winter. So I love to put them on top of piled leaves, not only around the plants, but in the paths as well. The worms love the burlap and readily come up from the soil to help break down the leaves and bags. And by spring, your garden should be ready to plant with rich soil at the ready. Now, the only caveat that I have about this is, again, being in Western Washington, the burlap bags would most definitely break down and decompose over a winter. I mean, you couldn't even see that there was burlap bags except for the thread that closed the bottoms. But I brought many, many bags over to Idaho with me. And because it's so dry here, and because it's just, I believe it's just so hot here, that the burlap bags don't break down so readily. And my husband, it drove him nuts. So he ripped up all my burlap bags. So I really don't know how long it would take to break down here, but oh gosh, it's really good to keep the weeds down. Really, really good. And then thick piles of straw break down slowly over the season and help keep the weeds down and the soil damp. And, you know, again, in Washington State, where it's pretty humid over there, it's maritime, I would put 2 feet of straw in between my rows and around my plants. And by the end of the season, the end of the growing season, it would be about 2 to 3 inches tall. That's how quickly straw will break down. Now, again, in Idaho, it doesn't break down that quickly. So that could be a positive or a negative, depending on how you're looking at it. So what are examples of compost materials? Grass clippings, great. So grass clippings, you can pile them all up in one pile and they start to decompose. One thing to watch though, it gets really hot and it could start burning. So I had it was like a 6-foot pile of grass clippings, and it was huge, very wide. And one day it looked like there was smoke coming out of my grass clipping pile. And I went over there with a big garden fork, and lo and behold, I kind of took some of the top off and it was starting a fire. So grass clippings are great to add nitrogen to the soil, but you really want to, if you're having them in your compost pile or just alone, you want to keep turning that. So we also have compost tea, straw, as I said. Cardboard is great. I know people will say, take off the tape, and if it has a lot of, dye on it, maybe you don't want to use it. How about dead things the cat or the dog bring in, that can be thrown in the compost. Spent grains from your local brewery, great. Seaweed, sand, burlap bags, coffee grounds, wood ashes, aged manure from chickens, alpacas, llamas, rabbits, horses, etc. Kitchen scraps, rotten wood from fallen trees, autumn leaves are all examples of free or very inexpensive soil amendments. Now, rabbit manure doesn't have to be aged, but nor the alpacas and llamas, but chicken manure and horse manure, you want to age them. In fact, chicken manure, you have to age at least a year, otherwise it'll burn your plants. So we fertilize with compost heavily in spring and fall, and we throw compost around the garden during the summer as well as you want to. And then we finish by watering on top of that so it can just get really well into the ground itself. So we don't want to use commercial bone meal, feather meal, or blood meal, as the animals are fed with Roundup ready plants and feed. So, and that will go right into your soil. So find clean, true organic, non-GMO compost, or make your own. So when we get non-organic compost, say from your city, it could have plastics, needles, glass, metal, etc. So we want to really be wary of where we're getting our compost from. So, and we can make the compost tea. So, and just as an aside, some herbs do very well in poor soil. Thank you very much. And that would be your Mediterranean herbs, like your lavender, thyme, oregano, sage, rosemary. So compost tea is free and easy to make. We simply throw soft leaf plants such as nutrient-rich nettles and comfrey in a bucket. And you don't have to chop it up. You can if you want. You fill with water and allow to sit for 2 weeks, and it gets stinky. And then you pour it around the plants. And the plants go, oh, yum, yum, this is so good for me. In fact, on the bottom right, we see the comfrey there. That comfrey makes great compost. It's super, super nutrient rich. And then on the left, that's my school, Cedar Mountain Herb School, is in Seattle and in Sandpoint, Idaho as well. And this is Heather Bruno. She's the Seattle instructor. And here she is being funny. That's nettles, by the way. And she's acting like she's going to take a big bite of the nettles. She didn't, but I love that picture of her. I think herbalists can be pretty spicy, and definitely she's a spicy girl. So do you have chickens or access to someone who does and feeds organically? For myself, I use fur flakes in the nesting boxes in the chicken coop with liberal amounts of straw on top. And then as the weeks pass, I take out the poopy straw and throw it all in the big pile. And the process continues as the chickens poop. So as I clean out the coop, it all goes in a pile, everything. And then the fresh bedding comes in, and over the course of the year, the chickens scratch in the pile looking for the worms and beneficial bugs and mushrooms that arrive to do their part to break down the straw into amazingly rich, fertile soil. Amazing. I've had big piles of poop and fur flakes and straw that after about a year and a half, it's just soil. It's wonderful. So this is one of my compost piles. It doesn't look very pretty, but boy, did it work really well. So I would add things to one side, and then as it was starting to break down, I would take some from the other side that was broken down actually and put it on top to help breaking down. And I kept alternating. And one day I had a chicken. This is when I lived alone. I had a chicken that died. And I said, what am I going to do with this chicken? And I put her in my compost pile. And then in the spring, I dug through the pile. I forgot that I had put her in there. And I dug through because it all looked like beautiful soil. And can you see that? It's just a bone. The rest of her became amazing, amazing soil. I used to get horse manure from a gal who had a horse farm. And one day I brought my truck, and she had a tractor, and she was pulling manure out from the pile. And then all of a sudden she went, "Oh, wait, don't look." And of course I looked, because I'm a farm girl. I want to see what's happening. And it was the remains of a lamb. And she said, "Yep, it takes about a year, but that lamb will be gone and it'll be beautiful soil." It sounds a little gruesome, but boy, your plants sure love it. It's beautiful nutrients. So let's move on to water. Plants need water to thrive. So we'll look at several ways to hydrate the soil. One is with a sprinkler. It looks really pretty, but it's a fairly inefficient way to water the garden, especially if you're in an area that's hot and dry, because it doesn't really have enough time to really soak in the ground. And so your water ends up going back up into the sky. So it does waste the water, and it requires moving the sprinkler around from plot to plot. That could be fun though. And on a hot day, maybe that's what you want to do, is go in the sprinkler, or just set up a little chair there and be sprinkled along with your plants. Hand watering with the hose, the benefits, such a beautiful, peaceful time in the garden. Hand watering takes time, so the gardener can look over the plants for pests, the maturity of the plants, see if something's ready to be harvested, for planning for next year, for spotting mildew, for seeing, what's going on in the garden, maybe catching a garden fairy even. So some of the detriments is that some plants, like the pretty calendula there, and spearmint, monarda, anise, hyssop, it tends to be a lot of the plants in the mint family are damaged by water on their leaves, and that can invite mildew. So one thing to think about if you're watering with a hose, make sure you're watering thoroughly. If we don't take enough time to thoroughly water an area, it fosters poor root systems, and then we get plants that are not as hardy as we would hope. So really your best options are drip irrigation and lots of mulching. Burlap bags and straw, as I said before, make excellent mulching material. And compost over the course of a year or so to feed the soil. I'll talk more about mulching materials when we get to our hugelkultur garden. So again, be aware that city compost will probably contain chemicals such as herbicides, pesticides, weed and feed, and etc. As all the weed and plant containers collected by the city are combined together. And that means there is no guarantee that the compost is healthy. So mulching truly is my favorite. And I'm really not a fan of weeding. This is a picture of me staring at my garden. I love looking at my garden. I'm really not a fan of weeding my garden. And I think mulching just looks so pretty as well. So, the pests. A wise gardener introduced and stewards beneficial insects and nematodes in the garden to keep them safe from predators. So rinconvitova.com, you can get their catalog, and that ships nematodes and other beneficial insects that eat the bad insects, like the aphids and the other things that want to eat your kale and some of your other plants that you want to use yourself. So let's continue with some garden styles. We got indoor gardening. An indoor garden can add beauty and versatility to any home, adding oxygen to the air and flavor to our meals. And I believe that herbs and pots are a joy to behold. I love plants in the house. In fact, in my bedroom alone, I have 32 plants. That's a lot of plants. And I remember when I was a child, I had 29 plants in my bedroom. And when you opened up the door, it was like this whoosh of oxygen that would come out. I had plants on the windowsill, plants on my dresser, plants hanging. They were just everywhere. And there was not a single other living thing besides people and our dog in the house. And so I never stopped doing that. So I just love going to sleep with all my friends are around me, and I wake up and they've given me oxygen all night long. The thing about indoor herbs, remember that they have life cycles, and you may find that some herbs do better inside than others. The mints particularly need to rest in the winter months and they will die back. So take heart, just water every so often so they're not completely dried out. And in the spring, they'll naturally send out more stems. So indoor plants need access to plenty of sunlight. A sunny window is usually sufficient. However, investing in full spectrum grow lights will help keep indoor herbs more vibrant, and you'll get better flavor out of them too. Container gardens are movable spots of color and oxygen in the home or outside. So this is my home in Sandpoint, my beautiful home. And this is when my container garden and the plants look just all nice and well contained. And give it another month or so and it's my gosh, it's just huge and unruly. And you know what? It sounds a little bit like me. And on the bottom there are my beautiful geese, Daisy and Duncan, with their little bowl of ice water because it was a really hot day. They loved that. So here's an example too of a garden. It's called hugelkultur. This type of gardening is super easy and it brings very high yields. Hugelkultur is German for hill culture. One hugelkultur hill or several hills are called, each one is called a guild, create high yielding, low maintenance food and herbs using native forests as a model. Hugelkultur beds can be built on rocky, hilly, and fertile soil and will grow amazingly healthy plants. Guilds are installed in mind of attracting and sustaining plant pollinators, creating habitat for birds, butterflies, bugs, and other beneficial beings. Hugelkultur guilds can be as small as 4 feet across, like the one on the top here, to many, many feet long and high. And again, assess your land and plan accordingly. This on the bottom here, I talked about my friend Erin, the herbalist. That's her. And then this is Michael Pilarski, aka Skeeter, Friends of the Trees. Some of you might be familiar with him. He's another wild man in the herbal community, and we're at his property in Chimicum, Washington. And this was a guild that was 60 feet long. There were some trees that were cut down on the property, and he just laid them down and built his gardens around these big logs. It was just amazing. So my husband, when we moved, this was March of 2021, we were in Idaho just a couple of months, and he was clearing the land there. We got the 4 acres in town that needed a lot of work. Nothing was done to it for many, many years. And so he cleared a lot of brush and a lot of debris, and he just built this big mound, and it was actually taller than me. It's hard to tell, but that was in March, and by October it was covered in plants. The next year there was loads and loads of mullein that I find not to be a noxious weed, but a very medicinal plant for opening up the lungs and for pain relief as well. And this became, over the next couple of years, it went down to just about down to the ground because it kept decomposing and decomposing all the logs and the brush and the twigs and the leaves and the dead grass and everything. And boy, oh boy, is that soil is super fertile. So some advantages of hugelkultur is the gradual decay of logs and branches, which we start with, makes for consistent sources of nutrients. And it helps to hold on to water. So this is hugelkultur is great for those areas that are really dry. In fact, in New Zealand and Africa, they build hugelkultur guilds and they thrive and make beautiful food. In our May, I believe it's June, in our June gathering, the Bonner chapter here in North Idaho, I'm going to be speaking on hugelkultur. guilds. And then the next month, July 13th, we're actually going to go to our president, Teresa Batale's house, and we're going to create some guilds and plus a straw bale garden for her as well. So if you're in North Idaho, mark your calendars, girls. So when we're making a hugelkultur, we're starting out with big logs, and here in Idaho, we're going to we're going to dig out a little pit that's going to be about 6 inches deep, and the logs will go in there. And that's when we water them, it's going to help to hold on to that water. And on top of the logs, we put twigs, and then on top of the twigs, we put leaves, and then on top of the leaves, we may put grass clippings. We may chop down some comfrey or nettles or other herb plants that decompose quickly. And on top of that, we can get from the forest the native soil that's full of all these beautiful nematodes and mycorrhiza and all these beautiful nutrients that are going to help to inoculate this guild. And then on the top, we plant, and we keep every layer that we do, we very well water it, and then we keep that watered, and we can grow amazing amounts of food on that. So take some time to observe how Mother Nature sustains a perfect balance by witnessing the plants in their native habitat. So go into the woods and the forest, go into the fields, watch what plants grow, who grows together, and what really constitutes a healthy forest ecosystem. So that's multiple heights and life cycles. So conifer trees, deciduous trees, you'll have willow, you'll have pine or fir, you might have then the smaller trees like the alder, and then you could have then the bushes, and then underneath are the low growing little vines and ferns and things. And they're all contributing as the leaves die back, as the conifer needles fall, that all contributes to the fertility and the biomass of the soil. And it brings in the beneficial insects, that the decomposers, the mycelia, the mushrooms that come down and make that biomass become healthy soil. So that provides so much valuable information that can be used when creating rich hugelkultur guilds. I love going in the woods to get my hugelkultur materials. So let's move on to straw bale gardening. Straw bale gardening is a very easy and versatile garden technique. So we start by, this is just 2 bales of straw that we tied together. And then on top of it, we put compost, worms, leaves, grass clipping, chopped fresh nettles and comfrey. Lots and lots of compost tea were piled on top. Before we added the soil, we added some red wigglers on top of that. And then we planted. And then you see we wrapped around the straw bale, we wrapped around it with burlap bags, and that helps to keep it contained and helps to keep the moisture in. And again, you can see this is one of my apprentices with her kids, that this is something that's fun for the kids to do. And we planted, in this particular one, celery, kohlrabi, cabbage, parsley, tomatoes, peppers, and basil. We actually had 2 straw bale gardens, and what they planted, they got to harvest and take home. So every week they showed up at my house, and then they went over to the straw bale garden that they created, and they were able to take things home to eat for themselves and their family. So in the late fall, between the first and second year of that particular straw bale garden, I added lots of raked leaves and plant debris and piled it on top of the straw bale. And then I didn't pull up any plants. Whatever was left, I just left it all there, and all of that stuff went on top of it. And then I secured it all with burlap bags, and I allowed nature to do its thing by composting. And then every once in a while in the winter, again, this was Western Washington, I would lift up the burlap, and all these little red wigglers would be like, hey, it's too light, put the burlap back on. So I put the burlap back on, and they were just busy chewing and pooping out worm castings, which is beautiful soil for us. And then by the end of the second season, so the second spring came around and I planted again, and the straw bale was only half the size. And then at the end of the season, my straw bale gardens had composted down, no more straw, nutrient-rich soil. And I used that soil to inoculate the next year's straw bale gardens. And that is a successful straw bale garden. So when we're planting our straw bales, they look like this. And depending on where you live, it could take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to completely break down, but it will. And then you can plant right on top again. You have this mound of incredible soil. So let's talk about herbs. Let's talk about what we're going to put in our garden. And when we spend quiet, meditative time in the garden, we enter into conversation with the soil, the plants, the insects, the birds, and all of the beings who reside there. And I always ask my students to just sit in the garden and be quiet and make friends, because they will teach you so much, and there's so much to learn. And I truly believe that watching something grow is good for morale, and it does help us to believe in life and life cycles. Almost every herb has multiple health benefits, and choosing which plants will best support your own apothecary needs is essential for a successful herb garden. So some of the herbs that I'm going to talk about are what's going to attract the pollinators, the bees and the birds. That's important because the bees and the birds are our pollinators. Okay, so we'll talk about how culinary herbs are medicinal. We'll talk about herbs for relaxation, for coughs and colds and flu, immune support, respiratory care, digestive care, heart health, and skin care. And I want you all to just sit and take a really deep breath right now. Just take a quick little break, have a little bit of water, because I know it's been a lot of information. And so I'm just going to give us just a 10-second break here. My apprentices tell me a lot. When I open my mouth, a fire hose of information comes out. So I tend to overwhelm. So this is our tiny little break. Take a breath or two. Okay, that's all we have time for. So let's talk about the pollinator attractors. So the butterfly bush in the middle, top, Buddleia davidii, one of my all-time favorite plants. Some people call it a wild lilac. Plant this in your garden and make sure you cut all of the blooms off before it seeds, because it tends to spread like wildfire and become a noxious weed and take over. So they're beautiful. These flowers are beautiful in vases, and they're beautiful gifts to give, but they sure do bring the bees. You'll see there massive amounts of bees. On the top left, we have spearmint, Mentha spicata. This is my great Aunt Mary's spearmint. My great Aunt Mary started teaching me about plants when I was just a wee lass. And she lived by my grandma just 5 houses away, and I would go from grandma's house to Aunt Mary's house, and she had plants, that girl, and she knew about plants. She would teach me about her garden plants. She taught me how to take care of house plants. She would send me home with starts and seeds. And I have the spearmint growing that she gave me when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I call it Aunt Mary's spearmint. This is Aunt Mary's spearmint. And she had already had it for decades. And can I just say, I am 63 years old. So you can do the math on how long I've had this plant. And I leave some in the ground every place that I live. When I move, I leave it, but I also take some with me. And I give lots and lots of the spearmint away, because my Aunt Mary saw the beauty part in life all the time. She lived alone from when she was 42, and she lived till she was just about 11 days shy of her 100th birthday. And she saw beauty everywhere she looked, and she would always say to me to look for the beauty parts of life. So when I'm giving out my spearmint starts, I just feel like I'm spreading that legacy of beauty and love from my great Aunt Mary. And if you're local to me, you can come dig some up. I have literally given away hundreds and hundreds of starts. If you want to mail me to mail them some to you, that's not going to be for another month. You pay the shipping and I will send you some spearmint. And so email me at Suzanne@cedarmountainherbs.com, or you can contact me through my website, cedarmountainherbs.com. So mints tend to spread. So if you keep it in a container, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay in the container. And I have lots and lots of spearmint because I have it growing all over. I have lots of places where I grow it, and it's just that important to me. I have it in containers. I have it in the ground. It spreads and it spreads. So it needs water and it needs full sunlight to grow. But being a mint, it does fairly well in all types of soil. On the bottom, catmint, Nepeta fascenii, that is not catnip, it's catmint. It mounds. Catnip grows tall, catmint grows low and mounding like a little bush, and it has beautiful flowers that bring the bees. I failed to mention the spearmint. The bees love the spearmint. And, you know, we can use this in teas, right? We can do flower remedies. How beautiful. See that middle picture on the bottom? This is a group of apprentices, the gal in the, what do you call that she's wearing on her head? I call it an herbal tiara. She was pregnant and we're having a blessing way for her. And so we made that for her, and we made sure we put the spearmint of love in there. Lemon verbena, Aloysia citrodora. That is a beautiful lemony leaf plant that brings in the pollinators. And oh, I love making honey. I take those leaves in September and I chop them up and I fill a jar, pour honey over it, let it sit for a month, strain it out, and oh my goodness, talk about the most beautiful honey that you'll ever taste in your life. It's just gorgeous. And I made a quart and my husband found it, and a month later it was gone. So this time I'm going to have to make a couple of quarts and stash one away where you can't find it. And then lastly, foxglove, Digitalis purpurea. This is a toxic plant. So yes, it's a plant that the science has made from it. It contains digitalin, and digitalin is a heart. It gives you strength, strong heartbeats. But in this form, we don't know how much to use. I'm not going to talk about how best to extract it. I don't want to give out that information, because we're going to look at it as a plant that's so strong that we're not going to use it that way. But oh my goodness, what a beautiful, beautiful plant. And I love having this in my garden. It's a biennial. So the first year grows in a rosette, low to the ground, just the leaves. The second year sends up this beautiful flowering stalk. So I like buying some second year and first year foxglove and growing them together, because then as their life cycle change, you know, first year is just sitting there, but the second year plants give me those beautiful blooms that's going to attract the bees and butterflies. But then that plant is going to die, and but it's dropped seeds, right? So the next year, that first year plant is going to send up the flowering stalk, and then the seeds will have created that little rosette of plant. And so we'll always have beautiful, beautiful foxglove in our garden. Culinary herbs are medicinal. All cultures cook with herbs for taste and for health. We have parsley, which is a perennial. We have all of these are perennials. Garden sage, thyme, rosemary. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. These are beautiful plants that are all, well, the garden sage, the rosemary, the thyme, they're antimicrobial. That means it kills bacteria viruses, and funguses, fungi. And so we can use this in cooking, and then we get that medicine that it brings to us. One of my mottos at the Cedar Mountain Herb School is get the medicine of the people in ways they'll enjoy taking so that healing can occur. So I'm not all tinctures, right? I dry plants, I make vinegars, I definitely do tinctures, but I put herbs in herbal truffles, I make herbal honeys, herbal vinegars, and then I use them. People love my cooking. I love that they love my cooking, and I love that they're getting healed by my cooking because I'm using these herbs that for generations, the grandmas and great grandmas and great great and great 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 grandmas knew that they're medicinal. Parsley will make you go pee. So if you need to be, on a diuretic, that's a good one. Or you're just trying to do a cleanse. You can juice the parsley, just chew on the parsley, and it'll make you go pee, pee, pee. So some examples of relaxing herbs, some of my favorites, all-time favorites, we have lavender, of course. Lavender grows really well in poor soil, but it grows really well in fertile soil too, at just about any soil. I love making flower remedies from lavender. Lavender is very calming. It helps us, how us women, we can have what's called spaghetti brain, right? So we have all the thoughts are happening at once, and it can be very overwhelming. Or we have these racing thoughts, or we're up at midnight or 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and we're thinking the things, right? And that's why we use lavender at night, because what it does, it contains something called alpha pinene. Alpha pinene is a terpene, aka essential oil, that is tranquilizing. So lavender calms us down, helps us to focus, helps us to take one little strand of spaghetti out, look at that, put it away, and then we can take the next one if we want, or maybe we'll just drift off to sleep. The beauty part of lavender is we can use lavender oil in our cars, and it helps us to focus. And if everybody around you is road raging and it's freaking you out, man, lavender helps you to take that emotional deep breath and just be calm and drive safely. So we have motherwort, Leonurus cardiaca. Leonurus means lion, cardiaca, hearted, lion hearted. It helps us to be brave. It helps us to be strong. Motherwort is a plant in the mint family. It actually helps to strengthen the heart, the cardiac pathways. And if we have problems with, gosh, we didn't have the mother we wish we had, or our mother is gone, like mine. Mine's been gone for 19 years, and sometimes I just need my mom, right? I turn to my motherwort. One of my apprentices one time was having a panic attack. We were way, way, way up in the mountains, a good hour and a half away from civilization, harvesting in the most beautiful spot, but it was too much for her. She started having a panic attack. I keep motherwort in my car. I had her take 4 drops of the tincture, and she went from freaking out to this huge, deep breath. And she said, wow, motherwort is like a breath of fresh air and a hug from my mom. And that's exactly what motherwort is. Wort is an Old English word for plant. So this is the plant of the mother, right? The plant of the mother. I wrote a book called The Quest for Calm, which you can get on motherearth.com. And I talk about all of these plants in depth. And you can see what the motherwort, the picture is me holding on to a bee, a rose heart, and a motherwort heart that I made out of the plant. And I give the directions on how to do that. So I could talk about all these plants for 8 hours each, but I know I'm going to be overstepping my time here. So I need to move on to hawthorn. Hawthorn is a wonderful plant in the rose family that helps us to calm down. Here's some motherwort flowers. The key to harvesting motherwort flowers are to harvest them when those stamen are pink. You can see those pink parts. that means the flower has not yet been pollinated. A pollinated flower no longer contains its medicine. The purpose of a flower is to be pollinated, to attract the pollinator and be pollinated. So it can put out colors, it can put out essential oils, terpenes that attract the pollinator. And once it's been pollinated, it doesn't need to be cute. It doesn't need to shave its legs anymore, or brush its teeth anymore. So it kind of just starts dying, and it is no longer containing that beautiful medicine that we're looking for. So hawthorn, absolutely hands down, one of my all-time favorite, one of my top 10 plants for, again, like the motherwort, takes away panic attacks, but also if you feel that tightness in your chest, you wake up with tightness in your chest because you had the bad dream, or you're dealing with you dreamt about that trauma again, you're trying to work things out, maybe during the day you're having that tightness, or menopausal palpitations or skipped heartbeats, this is your go-to for that. So beautiful, beautiful heart medicine, both physical and emotional heart. Chamomile, a beautiful plant in the aster family that is anti-inflammatory, which is great, because when we're stressed out, we immediately flood ourselves with these hormones that cause inflammation. And science has said that chronic inflammation is really the starter kit for just about every disease there is. So we want to be calm. We want to be able to think clearly. We want to be able to not have our limbic system be constantly hit. And all these herbs really help to calm us down, reset our limbic system, calm down our nervous system, so that our immune system is working well, our digestive system is working well. All of these herbs help it with that. And oats, Avena sativa, you prepare your soil. For me, it's in May. And then I throw down the oat seed and water it. And by August, I pinch those little seed heads, and it looks like a little drop of milk comes out. And that is what is called milky oats. They're full of calcium. We talked about magnesium earlier for being a relaxing herb. Calcium is what literally feeds our nerves, gives our nerves the nourishment it needs to work properly. Right? And oats actually help to, how do I put it without going into anatomy too much? So how oats will tell a cell called a Schwann cell next to a nerve cell to produce myelin, which is the protective covering around the axon of the nerve, which is the middle string part of a nerve cell. And so it helps to repair nerves. And if we feel like, have you ever said, my nerves are frazzled? Somebody's sitting on my last nerve and I'm just so frazzled right now. I can't cope. I'm overwhelmed. You literally can have nerves that are frazzled, that are damaged, that myelin sheath gets damaged. And so the neurotransmitters that are zipping by at the faster than the blink of an eye are damaging literally our nerves. So we need that myelin sheath to protect. And our moods are a function of our nerve strength. Oats help us to heal our nerves physically, so our emotions, our moods can be much calmer. Woo! I appreciate that you're all staying with me here, because again, this is so much information. So herbs for cough, cold, and flu relief. Now, all of these you can grow in your garden, by the way. Important things. So, and most of these herbs, well, in fact, all the herbs that I've talked about so far, they need good sun, they need good water, they need healthy soil. So plant these wherever you can. It doesn't have to be in your garden. It could be by your garden. Like the elderberry, maybe you don't want to grow it in your garden because it can get pretty big in the space of, 10 years, and it may overshadow things. So plant it on another part of your property. Plant it by your front door. Horseradish. Horseradish is one of the ingredients in fire cider, AKA Master Tonic. It's very hot. And it helps to kill viruses. Viruses can only live at certain temperatures in our body, and that's why when we get sick, we get fevers, because our body is trying to create an environment that's not conducive for this virus to live. So horseradish helps us to be able to raise our body temperature. One thing I wanted to mention about the elderberry, there's a lot of misinformation out on the interwebs about elderberry and how to prepare it. And on my website, cedarmountainherbs.com, I have an article called The Truth About Elderberries. And I talk about the best ways to utilize and prepare your elderberries for the most effective medicine. So go ahead and check that out. Echinacea and Spilanthes, both. Echinacea, this is Echinacea purpurea, but there are lots of different species of Echinacea, Echinacea angustifolia as well. Echinacea purpurea, this one, we can use this particular root dried or fresh. Echinacea angustifolia, we need to use it fresh, okay, for its best medicine. So, and they're just so beautiful. And, you know, sure, it's a cough, cold, and flu relief herb, but it's also a pollinator attractor too. So it does dual work for us in the garden. It contains something in it called alkamides that help to relieve cough and cold and flu symptoms. And they have the same alkamides in the Spilanthes. So Spilanthes is it's a low growing plant, and it has, you can see those little flowers. One of my apprentices a couple years ago said they look like bee butts, which I thought was just darling. And it does attract the bees. And if you bite on one of those little bee butts, your mouth starts tingling. And that's the alkamides in there. Some people call it the toothache plant, but I think that's cutting it a little short on what it can do. I have a goose, actually 2 geese that are having some problems right now with respiratory stuff. And so I'm giving them a tincture twice a day with Spilanthes and Echinacea together, and it's helping with their squeaking and their head shaking. So mullein, people call it invasive weed. Again, I call it medicine. It opens up the bronchia to help us to breathe better. Especially, you know, if we're congested or we feel like there's an elephant on our chest, it relieves that, and it opens up our lungs, helps us to not only breathe better, but to spit out, you know, cough up and spit out the stuff that our body is trying to get out. So immune support. These don't look like immune support herbs, do they? But they absolutely are. Dandelions, one of my favorite. Dandelion helps to boost the immune system. I have a beautiful article, a plant monograph that's quite lengthy on dandelion. Check that out. All parts of the plant are edible. I use dandelion. I roast dandelions. The roots. I have, again, I've got dozens and dozens of articles on my website. So go ahead and check that out. I roast the roots. I make a breast oil with the leaves. Not the leaves, the flowers that help as a diuretic to reduce that pain during premenopause. The leaves are edible any time of year. Some people say they're too bitter when they're big, but bitter is so good for you. Bitter brings down inflammation, which is so important. It helps to create a very healthy digestive system and immune system. One of my favorite things to do with dandelions is to take the leaves and make pesto, and you use it fresh leaves to make pesto. And I take those flower buds and I do pickled dandelion flower buds. And of course I have the recipes on the website. So garlic, get everybody in your family to eat garlic, and then nobody can complain when you're eating garlic. I grow lots and lots of garlic. The key to garlic for being antibacterial and to boost the immune system is it has to be fresh. Not only fresh, it has to be smashed, because in each cell in cells that are different constituents, compounds, that when we smash those cells, they come together to form a sulfur compound called allicin. And that allicin is one of the key components in garlic that boosts the immune system and kills bacteria and helps us to breathe really, really freely. Oh my goodness. I've had COVID a couple of times now. And so when I get that or any other flu, I eat 2, 3, 4 big cloves of garlic every day. I mash it with a knife. I just mash it. And then I put it on the universal vehicle for herbal medicine, which is toast with some nut butter on it, and it tastes great. And then within about a half hour, you can really feel your lungs opening up. So raspberry contains beautiful antioxidants in it, not just the berries, but the leaves. And I drink raspberry leaf tea all winter long. I like to dry the leaves, and I get that beautiful immune boosting components. And also I like to make an herbal vinegar and an herbal honey from the leaves. And then I can get the medicine to the people. I use that in my drinking water. I use that to make salad dressings. The honey goes on toast, and I know I'm getting this beautiful medicine into the people I love. And then holy basil, not just for relaxing and taking away anxiety, but boosting the immune system as well. You know, in North Idaho, I'm finding it hard to grow here. It seems to, I don't know whether it's too hot or what it is, but I think in more humid areas, I think holy basil would grow better. So respiratory care, besides the mullein, we have Monarda, bee balm, we have elecampane, and nettles. So nettles contain, like chlorogenic acid, which is an antioxidant that is antihistamine. That antihistamine will get destroyed with heat and drying. So if we dry nettles and make a tea out of it, it's not going to help with our respiratory care, but it will make us PPP because there are other components in it that are diuretic that aren't destroyed in the drying process. So when I'm using the nettles, I'm making a fresh nettle pesto, and I'll freeze it and I take it out as needed. I can freeze it in tiny little ice cube trays and then pop them out into freezer containers and keep them in there. It tastes great. I use nutritional yeast, sesame oil, and lots of fresh garlic. And boy, oh boy, does that open up the lungs. It also helps with taking away allergies, whether from food or pollen, mold, that sort of thing. Works really well. Elecampane, we use the root, Inula helenium. Inulin is a prebiotic. It's also known as a polysaccharide that not only boosts the immune system, but gives our probiotics that are in our digestive tract food so that it's working properly. And if our gut flora is working properly, then our immune system is working better, which means our respiratory system is working better as well. And elecampane is most famously known as an expectorant. And then bee balm, it's a spicy plant. And if you take one of those leaves and rub it and smell it, it smells really spicy, and it makes a great tincture that takes away inflammation. It opens up the lungs, and it also, you know, our sinuses are part of our respiratory system as well. And so if we have like water in the ear, or our sinuses are plugged or inflamed, bee balm tincture really helps to open that up really, really well. So digestive herbs, again, chamomile. What did Peter Rabbit's mom, Josephine Rabbit, give to him when he came home from Farmer McGregor's garden? He was all keyed up because Farmer McGregor tried to get him, and his limbic system was all over the place, and he got a tummy ache. Have you ever gotten so upset you get a stomach ache? Well, Peter Rabbit's mom gave him chamomile tea and sent him to bed. And it calmed him down and it took away his bellyache and it took away any inflammation as well. Now, marshmallow, Althea officinalis, a really beautiful old homesteady heritage plant that's full of mucilage, and mucilage is so good for soothing any kind of digestive upset, and it is a boon to your immune system as well. And then fennel, if you have a sour stomach or you have acid reflux, fennel helps to calm things down for you. All of these like full sun, all of these like the beautiful water and rich soil. Fennel can get the bugs, fennel can, and its pal levage, which is a culinary herb, can get the aphids. So that's when we call in our beneficial insects like the ladybugs. So then heart health. Heart's ease, I talked about heart's ease earlier. This is one of our first flowers in spring. This is a very low to the ground picture. I was literally laying on my stomach taking that picture. Heart's ease has that beautiful mucilage in it that boosts the immune system, that soothes all kinds of soft tissue, including the heart. I gave a talk years and years ago to a garden club, and it was all older people. And I say that now, being one of the older people, they seemed like they were older, but maybe they were my age now. But the one I was talking about heartsease, and I made a beautiful salve for the people to take home out of the viola. And a man came up to me and he said he had a broken heart because his lady love had broken up with him. And I gave him some of I had leftover salve, and I said, you know what, sir, take that salve and rub it on your heart and do that 3 times a day. And that's going to help heal your heart. And he sent me an email about a week later, and he said his heart was feeling so much better. And oh, that was such a beautiful thing. You know, did it really help, or just a little bit of self-care and self-love, I think was super helpful. And you know what? Our skin is permeable, and that medicine did go in. So how much was actual medicine, and how much was just, love and being cared for, and just, me giving him a hug, and sending him love and praying for him was all helped in the long run. Hawthorn, again, now we're seeing it in berries. This is Crataegus monogyna. Here in North Idaho, we have Crataegus douglasii, and our berries are a dark, dark purple. So these will come for us at the end of August. I know in Western Washington, the Crataegus monogyna in this picture comes in September. Best used fresh. So fresh tinctures, oxymel. So an oxymel, beautiful way to transport this heart medicine. And you just take these berries fresh, put them in a bowl, and take a jar and just roll around on those berries, and it's going to break open the skins, and you're going to fill your jar, not packing it. You have to have lots and lots of airspace. And then you're going to fill your jar 3/4 or 2/3 of the way up with apple cider vinegar, 1/3 of the way up with honey. And it's going to release pectin. And that pectin is another polysaccharide that is so healing to the heart. And but it's a fortress around the plant matter. So you'll notice all of a sudden you have these hard globs of hawthorn berries. So for the first 5 days or so, you're going to be breaking that open with using a knife or chopsticks. And that helps the vinegar and the honey to get in there and pull out those beautiful heart medicines. So I use a couple of years ago, I had my health took a deep dive for many, many reasons. And I was having heart palpitations and skip beats, and my heart would go really fast and then it would go really slow. And someone was always sitting on my chest and it was not fun. And I had a hawthorn tincture, and I took a half a teaspoon in the morning and a half a teaspoon at night. And that really helped to steady my heartbeat. I had a whole lot of other things that I had to do. And we don't have time to go into that right now. But, I do have a webinar on my website called Adrenal Fatigue to Adrenal Health. And I talk about my journey from adrenal exhaustion, and it gives a lot of good information about that and how I healed from all of that. And then the rose itself, the rose is the plant of love. And sometimes we just need love to heal our hearts. This particular species is called the Seven Sisters Rose. This is the rose that my grandma had growing on the side of her yard that my dad would stop and smell all the time. So I love the Seven Sisters Rose because they're both gone. But when I smell this rose, and I make flower remedies, and I make rose beads, and I make rose oxymel and salves and all of the tinctures, all of the things, it brings that love that my dad and my grandma just really showed just so very well. So one of our last frames here is on skincare. Two of my favorites, comfrey and calendula. Let's see, comfrey is a plant that really helps skin to heal, helps wounds to heal, helps to dissolve scar tissue. It makes the skin soft and supple if you have dried skin or cracked skin. It's so good for that. And we use the above ground, not the roots. People worry about the pyrrolizidine alkaloids and the comfrey. It's mostly concentrated in the roots, and it's water soluble. It's not oil soluble. So if we create comfrey oils, we don't have to worry about that pyrrolizidine alkaloid that can be damaging to our liver because it's not in the oil, because it won't go in there if it can't extract. So one of my favorite herbs. And then calendula, oh gosh, perfect for skin, all kinds of skin stuff. It's antiviral. It contains beta carotene that is an antioxidant that's so good for skin health. And I like putting calendula and comfrey together to make my salves. And the beauty part of calendula is the more we pick it, the more flowers it'll give us. So if we let all of our calendula flowers go, then it'll do this massive flowering, and then that's it. But if we keep picking, we'll get flowers coming for months and months and months, and we can share that with other people. So one of the last frames, weeds are flowers too, friends, once you get to know them. Chickweed, very cooling, wonderful plant. I like eating the chickweed. I chop it up. You can put it on a tortilla with some cheese or some nut butter. It's so wonderful. And you know what? It's called chickweed because the chickens really, really love it. And my geese love it too. Lamb's quarters, Chenopodium album. The seeds are really high in protein. There's a grain, well, it's not a grain, it's a seed that we eat called quinoa, right? You familiar with quinoa? Quinoa is Chenopodium quinoa. So here's a garden weed that is the seeds we can use very much like quinoa for that great nutrition. And I like to use the leaves too. I dry them and I throw them in soups and spaghetti sauces and things. They're so nice. And then here in North Idaho, we have lots and lots of purslane. It kind of has a lemony, kind of a sour flavor to it, and it's really yummy, and my geese and chickens go crazy for it. So here's some places for online herb start and seed catalogs. Again, I think that this PDF will be on the Mighty Networks, so you'll be able to download this and have this for yourselves forever. And I want to thank you so much for sticking with me. This has been probably longer than you may have thought, but I hope that you gain some more tools for your healthy lifestyle toolkit. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And when you check out my website, there's live online and in person and recorded herbal workshops. I have webinars, podcasts, tons and tons of free articles, merchandise. And oh my gosh, it's so much fun to go through the website. It's very fully loaded. I have a couple of apprenticeship programs starting, one in April. That's a month, once a month program, and then one starting in May that's almost full. That is every Thursday from May through September. And again, I've lots and lots of recorded webinars on there. Everything from leaky gut and like I said, what all is in there, how to make a tincture, how to make a tincture that isn't made with alcohol, how to make an herbal honey, the wisdom of our elders. There's information on perimenopause and most postmenopause. There's like 50 webinars on there, and they're very inexpensive. So feel free to peruse. And again, thank you so much. So much.
And you did awesome. We actually have a few questions, so I thought we could run through those just real quick.
Okay.
So we have, can grass contaminate the soil with weeds?
What?
Can grass contaminate the soil with weeds?
Well, we're composting it first, and it composts so hot that it's going to be killing the seeds. So it's not something I've ever had a problem with.
Awesome. What are fir flakes?
Fir flakes. So you get this big, huge bale, and it's cedar flakes or fir flake. It's just like little pieces of wood chips that are really thin, like paper, and you get them at the feed store.
Oh, fun. Can you use dead nettle compost tea, or is it just stinging nettle?
Well, traditionally it's the stinging nettle because it composts really quickly and it contains tons and tons of nutrients. The dead nettle contains different nutrients, but it does contain a lot of calcium, the dead nettle, because it's a mint.
Perfect. Do your interns help keep up with all your gardens, your container gardens, or is that just you?
No, neither one of us. That's my husband.
Are pine needles bad for the soil?
Well, pine needles can be acidic, right? So they're great around your acidic loving plants like your blueberries, but those who don't thrive in acid, we want to compost them first before we're going to use them.
Perfect.
And you know what? I tried a couple of years ago of pine needles as mulch. I don't know, North Idaho, we just don't decompose here. It did not decompose very well at all.
I've heard that as well. One of the participants has had a tree taken down last fall. The limbs were made into mulch. Is it too heavy to add to the garden?
Well, it's really good for the paths to keep down the weeds. And if you're going to use chips, I would first put down burlap or cardboard would be even better before we put down the chips, because some plants like the Canada thistle will come up through anything. So we want to put down something, even a weed barrier would be great before we put down the chips.
Okay, perfect. One of the ladies thought red wigglers were dangerous to use and they're invasive in ecosystems. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't had a problem with that myself. My chickens love them, my plants love them, and I don't know. I've never heard that they're invasive.
I hadn't heard that either.
I can't speak to that. No.
Yeah, we'll have to do some research on that.
Yes.
One lady said, I have yet to be able to find straw bales that aren't sprayed with at least an antifungal agent. Does this matter?
Well, if you're letting people know you're an organic farm, then it's going to matter. There are organic farms out there. And look for that in your area to see if you can find that. And talk to I like to get my eyes on the farmer's eyes and ask what they've sprayed things with. right? And then you hear it right from the person themselves.
Very true. When you cook with herbs, does it kill the components at a certain temperature, the helpful components?
A lot of the antioxidants will be destroyed by heat or drying, not all of them, but quite a few of them will. Selenium, which gives us healthy hair, skin, nails, a beautiful immune system, that is also destroyed in processing, but a lot of the other vitamins and minerals are not destroyed with cooking. I use fresh herbs a lot. Like, I love the flavor of garlic. So, and yeah, I'll dry my garlic and I'll make garlic powder and I use that as a flavoring, right? And it does, dry garlic will help with the, what do you call it? With the heart health, but it won't be antibacterial anymore. And so I like to maybe add some of my herbs finely chopped at the very end of the cooking process. Like today, I make homemade noodles and I'm gluten-free. So I use that Namaste brand 1-to-1. It's a rice flour. And I made our noodles and cooked them and then put them in a bowl. And I added some ghee because I'm dairy free too. And then mashed up some garlic and put it in there and just mixed it all up. And then I put the spaghetti sauce on top of that. And we ate it so fast it didn't have time to cook. And my husband doesn't like garlic, but let me tell you, he thought that was the best spaghetti I've ever made. Get the medicine to the people.
That sounds lovely. Do you use the hawthorn as a tincture?
Yes.
Is wild roses, I'm going to say it wrong. It's Rugosa, Rosa, as good as others?
Rosa rugosa.
There we
That's
go.
beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful rose. It has a lot of thorns on it, and it has really big hips. And so I love using the rose hips and the Rosa rugosa. And I love picking the buds early, and I make a vinegar out of that. So I like the wild roses the best, or the heritage roses. I have a lot of heritage roses. The roses that I'm going to get at the big box store like Home Depot or wherever, I'm not going to use those for medicine because those are so hybridized that who knows what kind of medicine may or may not be in there.
That makes perfect sense. Donna says, I freeze dry my herbs to preserve the nutritional value. Can they be used fresh or can they be used where fresh are needed?
I will have to get back to you on that one. Freeze drying is literally taking the water out, right? I don't know. I'm going to be getting a freeze dryer this year, and I'm going to be experimenting with that. I don't know. I think the brightness of the flavors are going to be there. I don't know about the essential oils or how the antioxidants are going to be affected by that. So there's your non-answer.
That is just fine. So we have, can you recommend plant herbs from spider mite, locust in the garden? I'm not sure. Can you recommend maybe that deter, or I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, go on that Rincon, what's the name of that? That website that you can get beneficial buds. Go on that website and then look that up to see if they have a beneficial bug for that.
Perfect. All right, Suzanne, you have done an amazing job. I'm going to pull up our screen and do your giveaway for your webinars. Yay, I'm so excited.
Thank you all. Thank you all
Yes.
so much.
So while I'm doing that, ladies, I realized I did not share our information about our Oklahoma gathering, and it's coming up in May. And while Suzanne won't be a presenter there, we have a bunch of awesome presenters that are going to be sharing their knowledge just like she does. So if you want to check that out, there's a link in the chat. Check out our website, check out our Facebook page, check out all the places. Come see me in Grove, Oklahoma, because we're going to have a great time. Okay, it should be pulled up now. Let's see who the lucky winner is. It looks like April. April, congratulations. Suzanne, I will get her information to you.
Okay, excellent.
Yes. So
And then what was it that April
Yeah.
was going to be winning?
The webinar part 1 and 2.
Excellent.
Yay. Yes. So,
that's
there
3
you go. They were still in here. Yay.
That's 3 hours of information on gardening. So what I did today, but expanded.
That's awesome. Oh, I'm jealous, April. I am jealous. Thank you so much, Suzanne. I hope you have a great night. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
All right, ladies, it's coming to an end, and I'm serious. Please come see me in Oklahoma for our Oklahoma gathering. It's going to be awesome. We're talking all kinds of things. I'm going to present there. So even if you don't know anything else, I'll be there. But check out the schedule. We have lots of things going on. We've got a bunch of awesome NLHG participants that are going to be there. I really hope you guys can join us. Next month, we are talking composting. So make sure you check that out. Also, all of our previous gatherings, minus this one, will all be on our